Hello and welcome to Framingham Now. I'm Jack Patrick Lewis, State Representative for the majority of South Framingham, some of North Framingham, and the entire town of Ashland. On this program, we talk with elected officials, community leaders, and area activists about the current political landscape in Framingham and the future of the town that many of us call home. As you likely know, this fall Framingham will be voting on new local leaders as part of its journey to become a city. This fall, we will be electing our first mayor and our first city council. As part of our journey to be electing a city council, I have been interviewing candidates running for the two at-large positions. On today's show, I am interviewing the fifth candidate running for one of those two at-large positions, Christine Long. Christine, thank you so much for coming on the show.
And thank you for having me, Jack. So get that out of the way.
Excellent. I'm happy to have you. So you were running for one of the two at-large city council positions. I believe there are 5 candidates who made it on the ballot, and this September, the field will be narrowed down to 4, correct?
Correct.
And then November, when we vote for mayor, we'll also be narrowing down the field from 4 to 2. And what you're here today is to introduce yourself to the few folks out there that maybe don't know who you are yet,
right.
And maybe that's a great place to begin. So who is Christine and why are you running?
Okay, so I'm Christine Long and I've been the chair of the planning board for a while now. I've been on the planning board in Framingham as a town for the last, this is my 10th year. And we've accomplished a lot on a very revenue generating board. And the reason I decided to run for council is because we're at a very critical juncture in the history of Framingham that I feel that people that are going to be elected to the council need to be very in tune with Framingham's government, how it works, the community, what the expectations are, and I think that transition is going to be very difficult because there's a lot of tension and divisiveness that has taken place through the city charter progress. So, and as you know, it was a very narrow margin that the charter did take effect. However, that's what we have. We have a city form of government, and the council will need to work very closely together to collaborate with the community to make some very important decisions about how we're going to deal with taxes, how we're going to deal with water bills, how we're going to deal with economic development, the schools, school choice, I believe, versus neighborhood schools is a very important issue. Also overcrowding and what we do about building new schools or not, and how we're going to deal with that, and economic development and the blighted areas that exist in town. So right now there's a lot of concern about a number of proposals that in the background that are being talked about with apartments coming in, and I know I myself as a planning board chair running for council is concerned about that because I know that the greater part of the community is not really so fond of the idea of having multiple apartment complexes all over town because we already have a number of them. So that's a big concern, and as I'm going around talking to people, knocking on doors, I hear a lot about how they're really concerned about their tax bill because we just got our tax bills a couple of weeks ago, and that was one of the first topics that came up. DPW is well loved in this town, so I would not see there would be any initiative or interest in downsizing DPW as far as the essential services, but I know all the departments need to be scrutinized as far as non-essential personnel and maybe ways to compartmentalize and consolidate a lot of departments. So I'm sure a new mayor with the council would probably look at that and how they're going to restructure the government.
You anticipated my second question. I was going to ask, what are your priorities? And
right,
you
those
rightfully
are all my
just
priorities.
jumped right in. How about education? You mentioned
so education's critical because I know myself. I'm from Wellesley originally, and I've been in Framingham for over 20 years now. Right. One of my reasons I moved to Framingham, and particularly moved to Hemingway Road, was because of schools. As my daughter has, at that time, learning disabilities, which she's done really well with, but I wanted to make sure that she was in Hemingway School as an elementary school child. And because I had heard the schools are really good and they had very good inclusion programs and especially special education. So I know not just for me, but I think most people choose where they want to live because they have amenities, they have transportation, they have excellent schools, and that's probably the number one thing is schools, location, location, location. As a contractor for 30 years, location was critical to me Framingham's very central. One of the things I really love about Framingham is the demography of Framingham. I actually lived on South Side, which is the other side, east-west actually of town. And I've lived over there when I was going back to school. I went to Boston College and graduated there while raising my child alone. So I know a lot about the South Side, and I know what their needs are, and I know what the issues are, and I actually love the diversity, and which is one of the things my daughters both like too, is the fact that we're very inclusionary of all kinds of peoples and all kinds of cultures, and it makes Framingham a very interesting place to live rather than where I came from, which was Wellesley, which had a total different culture.
You're really anticipating all of my questions today. I was going to say...
well, you want to know why I'm going to run.
No, I appreciate it. No, it makes interviewing easy. I just turn it over. I love it. If only all my guests could read my mind as well. If only my whole family could read my mind, I'd appreciate it as much as you can. You talked about sort of north-south divide, east-west divide. One of the questions I've asked all the at-large candidates is the immigrant community, which is huge in Framingham. It's a vibrant community. I, for one, have a hard time imagining Framingham without that thriving community. One of the things I've heard is, in my role, is people are afraid in a way they weren't just 6 months ago, and they're looking to Framingham's local leaders for some support. And I'm asking the candidates, do you think Framingham could be doing more, should be doing more, and if you're elected to one of the at-large positions, what do you see your role being?
Absolutely need to do more. There's so much work to do in Framingham. I mean, again, being on a revenue generating board, the planning board generates revenue. We permit projects. We try to be careful what we permit. We try to be careful with how we permit them, with conditions that make sense. Then with mitigation measures, we've gotten new sidewalks, connecting rail trails. We've gotten all new lighting, like Concord Street project, CVS. We got the developer kicked in $950,000 in mitigation. That was huge to get that whole corridor working, to have all the lights talking to each other and installed by others. So I've been on that end of it, and I'm always on the end like, where's all the money going? So now I've lost track of what the question was.
How to be supportive of all the communities, especially the immigrant
as far
community.
as working with the community, and there's a lot we need to do. The south side of town has been, in my opinion, the dumping ground for a lot of undesirable uses, and through zoning, the planning board has made a lot of those changes. Some weren't popular, but we had to find a way to stop the spread of uses on the automobile industry and the landscaping industries and storage yards, because they were just consuming very valuable property, manufacturing sites, and the residents down there are not happy with that. They feel that they need to be treated just like the north side gets treated. The north side is very particular about the type of development they promote, and that should be applied across the board. This shouldn't be like a one size for this guy, one size for this side of town. And I think that there needs to be more collaboration and more inclusion. This is why I was so happy we went to a city, because now we have equal representation. We have much more transparency, which I think has been lacking for a long time. And I will say that the planning board and our administrator has made the planning board extremely transparent. You see everything we're doing, and everything is funneled through her. There's no backdoor deals, no side deals, no discussions outside of meetings. So it all takes place through the administrator, and she encourages the public to come in and talk to her and vets all the questions that way. So I would love to see the whole town, or the city, and it's hard getting used to that word, the city operate in that fashion. So that would be my goal. And as a contractor for 30 years prior to the job I have now, working for Newton Housing Authority as a capital improvement coordinator and procurement manager or officer, I would like to see, I had a lot of Brazilian and a lot of Puerto Rican. I've had a lot of diverse people working through me, for me during that time. And the Brazilians are incredibly hard workers. All of these minority people, I mean, I'm Italian myself, and we're very labor-intensive type of people, so I typically would not want to be sitting at a desk, but I also got educated in a lot of different disciplines in business. I have a degree, and then I have my degree in political science and pre-law. So amongst other certifications and licenses to do with construction. So my interest is to see the town redeveloped properly, and that's one strength I have. coming into a council. I don't think there's another candidate other than probably Phil Ottaviani, who's been on the zoning board, which I sat on for 5 years, that has as much land use knowledge and understanding of the zoning and the economic development. And to me, that's a critical piece. That combined with looking at taxes, looking at the budget, seeing where we can cut, whether it's non-essential personnel or downsizing, and consolidate departments to make things much more streamlined and much more economical for the taxpayer, because I think there's 16,000 residential taxpayers and a number of commercial property owners that are bearing the budget of $270 million, and we need to do better. And certainly we have the real estate, 28 square miles in Framingham. We have the opportunity, we have the real estate, we just need the ingenuity and the collaboration of a small group of people that have that expertise to put that together and make this work. And I know it can happen, and I know we're going to be successful. So I think if the voters pick the right people and do their homework and study who needs to be there and who is in it for what reason, that says it all. But it's up to the voter to make the right choice, because we can't tell you who to vote for.
Yes.
We can encourage you to vote for us, but whoops.
That's all right. So unfortunately, our time has quickly come to a close. I try to ask all the candidates who are on the show to end by answering the question of what is it about Framingham that makes it not only the town that many of us choose to live in, choose to move to, and choose to raise families and to stay in, but in your case, you're putting yourself out there. You've put yourself out there before. You're choosing to run to lead Framingham. And so there has to be something special about this town that has led you to this place. And so just quickly, to wrap up your interview, what is that?
What's special about this town is I've lived here for a long time. I've raised my youngest daughter here. I just love my neighborhood. I love my neighbors. I love the community. I can't think of another place I'd really like to live. You feel welcome. You feel wanted. You can make lots of friendships. We can do better as far as more activities. But there's a lot to offer in Framingham, so why not Framingham?
Yes, excellent. Well, again, I am so appreciative that you were able to come on the show. I wish you the best of luck in the months ahead leading up to the September primary and then the November general. Just to remind you people at home, Christine is one of the 5 candidates running for those 2 at-large seats. I've now interviewed all 5 of them, so I invite you to check out all of their interviews, check out all of their campaigns, and look out your front door, because they'll be knocking on it over the next couple months. Thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time. Thank you.